Hey everybody, welcome to Pit Stops to Podium, the Red Partners podcast, where we talk to execs who have competed and won, taking their companies from high growth to high scale. My name is Brendan Tollison. I am the co-founder and CEO of Red Partners, and I'm delighted to have with me today Leroy Hite for our latest edition of Pit Stops to Podium. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure, sir.
Absolutely. Well, I was thinking about this, and this actually might be our first interview with a direct-to-consumer product. So this is congratulations. This is an exciting episode.
Fantastic. I thought you were going to say a first with the luxury firewood company, but direct-to-consumer works too.
That is also true. But it's a good segue into, so what is Cutting Edge and what are you guys doing?
So Cutting Edge Firewood, we started as the world's first high-end firewood company. And we have kept that, but we've also evolved into also the world's first high-end cooking wood company. So we do both of those, and we do both of those really well. We kind of got the inspiration. I started a long story short firewood company when I was in college, part of an entrepreneurial program, and had an epiphany that firewood's like a beautiful sunset. There's nobody on earth that hates a beautiful sunset. You can sit in front of a fire by yourself, and it's amazing. You can have your spouse, and it's romantic. You can have a few of the buddies over and talk about deep things you don't usually discuss, or it can be the center of a wedding party. And, my 4-year-old daughter from Georgia, or you can pick a 95-year-old man from Ethiopia, and they can both sit in front of a fire and enjoy it and cook over it. And so it's just something that kind of unites everyone, and everyone can enjoy it. And that's half of it. The other half is there's nobody else in the industry. It's kind of a wide open industry. So I really like the opportunity side of it.
Yeah, I like how you described it, the communal aspect. It's a connection point. Everyone can relate to it. And what's really neat, what you're applying is kind of that subscription type model that people are familiar with in the business world, and that B2B kind of SaaS perspective into the direct consumer market, which is really, I don't want to say a disruptive thought, but it is a really innovative way in which to go to market. Well, before we get into our big idea, we do have a tradition here at Pit Stops Podium, and that's to get to know our guest outside of work. So your challenge, if you choose to accept it, actually you don't have a choice, it is to give our listeners 3 fun facts about yourself, maybe outside of work, but if you want to apply it to work, that's also fine.
All right, fantastic. So I am one of 8 kids. So I grew up part of a big family. I actually had 6 sisters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in the order?
I'm the 5th child. Okay. 4 older sisters. So let's see. The second interesting thing about me is I've been married for 14 years. Congrats. And I have 3 daughters. Appreciate it. And
you're not going for 8 yourself, or you're going to stick to 3?
No. Yeah, probably stick to 3. The next interesting thing about me, it's kind of work related, but when to take my business to the next level, about 4 years ago, actually, my wife and I sold our house and invested in the business. And it's kind of a funny story behind that. But basically, we had 2 young daughters at the time, and my wife was 8 months pregnant with the 3rd, and came to her and I said, hey, wonderful, beautiful, perfect wife, I have this ingenious idea. Let's sell our house and invest it in the business. And she's absolutely awesome. So she said yes, and it paid off really well. So I'm glad that we did it.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a true partner, and that was very bold of you when you have a wife that's 8 months pregnant. I don't think I'd have the courage to do that. So kudos to you. I'm glad it's worked out so far, and I think it's a good segue into our big idea. And so, oftentimes there are a lot of good applications that like a B2B company can learn from a direct to consumer, and one of those is really around the customer experience aspect. And so, oftentimes B2B are so focused on net new customers, and while that's really important, they have this untapped network as it relates to their customers. And so I thought you'd be a great crew chief, if you will, around this idea of creating a really delightful customer experience. So what does customer experience mean to you? We'll start there, and then we'll work into some of these, smaller topics as we think about the journey and expectations, and then how do you kind of navigate when there are challenges. But what is customer experience in your mind?
Yeah, customer experience for me is all inclusive. And it definitely includes that journey that they go through, and that something that we say is everybody that works at Cutting Edge Firewood is part of the customer experience. From if you're doing finance to if you work in our warehouse and you're producing the product. Obviously, if we produce an inferior product, then we have an inferior customer experience. So yeah, that is our reason for existence, is the customer experience, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's a rally for the whole organization to understand that they play a role in a bigger picture. So it's a great way to kind of get everyone bought in. Let's talk about the kind of, as we think about customer experience. So there's the internal side of getting everybody rallied around it, but how do you make sure that from a customer experience, let's talk about the journey. So from beginning to end, I think you talk about it, it really needs to be a flawless execution, right?
That is correct. Yeah. So story or what I like to say is, customer experience, it's very hard to think through. It's easy to say, that wasn't a big deal. It doesn't matter. It was just a small mistake. Overall, everything went well. And so when a customer orders and we forget part of their product, or one thing was missing out of one of their products, or they had a hard time checking out on the website, or delivery took a long time, anything, I kind of compare it to if you were to take your spouse on a anniversary trip and you book a hotel room, you show up, and when you arrive, they use your last name, they grab your luggage for you, and they walk you straight up to your room. On the way up, everything's beautiful. It beats expectations. It's obvious. It's a great atmosphere. And they let you bypass the front counter and you just go straight to your room. You walk in, it's beautiful. It's bigger than you thought it was going to be. They have like champagne sitting out for you. And you walk out on the balcony. It's a more beautiful scenery than you thought it was going to be. But then you walk back inside and your wife notices that there's a hair in the bed, just one hair. And that one thing can ruin the entire experience if it's not handled well.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I've had a few experiences where that has happened, and it will certainly taint the experience. There's no doubt about that. And hopefully you got your wife that type of experience after you convinced her to sell your house after being 8 months pregnant. So
absolutely. Yep.
It's a good picture as you think about for our audience, just in terms of all those different touch points. It needs to be thoughtfully executed. And I think it's a good, transition as we think not only about the customer journey, but there's this idea of, and you mentioned it kind of in that first response of like expectation setting. And so there's like meeting expectations, but then there's also this idea of exceeding expectations. So walk us through that.
Yeah. And so I think we're a good example of that, because with us, it's very hard to convince people that fancy firewood or fancy cooking wood is a thing. And so really that experience starts when they see our first advertisement, our first bit of branding. It's our brand is very high end, it's elegant, it's simple. And it really, even just in our logo, kind of gets across exactly who we are. And that is the beginning of many of our customers' experience. It's either that or somebody's neighbor or friend saying, you've got to try these guys out. And so that is where the experience starts. And then you might see one of our yard signs around town if you live in Atlanta, or you might see an ad online. But then that brings people to our website, and we want our website to be very easy to use, very elegant and simple. And then whether you order online or if you give us a call, We want that process to be easy. Everybody that we talk to on the phone needs to be extremely professional and knowledgeable, and the ordering process needs to be easy. And then on the leading up to the day of delivery and on the delivery, communication needs to be on point. And when we deliver to you or ship the product to you, it needs to be above and beyond. What our delivery artisan service has kind of become well known here in Atlanta, and everybody is in polos and khakis. The delivery artisan, and of course we call them a delivery artisan, to get that experience, the level of experience that they need to show. They need to take care of the customer, put the wood exactly where it goes. The rack that we deliver it in has to be beautiful, pristine, because some customers even put it in their home. The firewood looks beautiful. We regularly get told that the wood looks like it could be in a photo shoot. And back to that kind of level of experience and quality, and that even our workers in the warehouse play an important role. We have a role that when we ship firewood to a celebrity like Terry Bradshaw or any other celebrity or famous person, or when we do a photo shoot, we pick just random products out of the warehouse. We don't send them something special. And that is the level, of quality that we send to everyone. And then when they use the product, of course, we want it to be perfect. And on the tail end, we actually write a handwritten thank you note to each customer, which really gets across our appreciation to the customer. People love that. And so from beginning to end, all that, I love the response from our customers. Part of it is kind of a third point that it creates an additional revenue lead source. But the other thing is we actually regularly get thank you notes back from the customers.
Do you really?
We've had, every day we get a text message or an email, just people telling us how awesome we are, which of course feels great. Our one of the marketing agencies we work with, I like how they put it. They said, your customers don't leave you reviews, they send you love letters. And we've literally had handwritten thank you letters sent to us, which
that's not
is
normal.
so amazing. No. And we had a chairman of the board for a $40 billion company send us a 6-paragraph email telling us how awesome we are. Wow. So it's, and that's a busy guy that doesn't have time.
No.
Paragraph emails. So exactly.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it's, I don't want to go off too topic, but there's what I'm hearing you say is there's no doubt that if you exceed expectations, you create that delightful experience, and naturally it's going to lead to revenue, whether that's retaining that relationship for ongoing firewood and or becoming a raving fan and telling others to buy it. But it sounds like there's a deeper purpose to what you just described in terms of why that's so important. I'm going off script here, but just out of curiosity, like what's driving that? Because that's not normal.
I love experiences. And obviously that includes the customer experience, but it's really the experience as a whole. That it really is my drive. As far as the business goes, is I love serving it's probably how it comes that I love serving other people. And there's definitely a faith component in there, in seeing the value of other people. That's
a good answer. It's a good. So like the last thing we want to talk about. So we talked about the customer journey. Flawless execution is critical. We talked about the expectation from an experience perspective in terms of meeting it and or exceeding it, and what happens when you exceed it. The last thing I want to talk about is, we are human, we are flawed, speaking from a faith perspective, and mistakes are going to happen. Sometimes you're not necessarily going to deliver on that promise in terms of exceeding expectations. So how do you manage that in the event that it does happen?
Great question. So I love some of the ways that we handle that. Kind of internally, what we say is if we make a mistake, we want the customer to be glad that we made a mistake. I actually met my wife working at Chick-fil-A when I was in high school, and they did this thing where if the customers had waited a certain amount of time, you would automatically hand them a coupon for free food. And it kind of got to a point where people were happy if they had to wait because they knew they were going to get a coupon. And kind of in that same way, if we make a mistake, something that we kind of have up our sleeve is if we miscommunicate with a customer, we show up late, or something relatively small, part of the product, part of the order wasn't delivered or something like that, we have this service where we offer same day delivery on all of our box products in Atlanta and Dallas. And so what we'll do is, a customer ordered a rack of hickory, and when we made a mistake, we'll send them a box of cherry firewood. That's a really cool little kit, and in it will include an apology handwritten note, which goes really far. I will say along those lines is make sure it's proportionate. I had a B2B business that really made a huge mistake and cost us a significant amount of revenue. And they sent us like a $20 gift card to a restaurant. And really, that was quite offensive. So you want it to be proportionate. If you make a big mistake, you need to make a big apology. And you need to be willing for it to hurt the apology, because you need to make it right if it was. And another thing is you definitely get the ego out of the way. Sometimes it's just the customer thinks you made a mistake, and you send them the box of firewood and you eat the cost, and they're a happy customer after that point. And a lot of it is kind of off point, but kind of wraps up all three is, or fits in all three, is really knowing your customer and kind of predicting and anticipating their needs, being the expert. And because we know what's going to offer the best experience. And if you're a B2B business, it's important to anticipate the needs of your clients, whether it's B2B or B2C. And that's going to be a big part of that customer experience.
Well, thank you for walking us through this really important topic that too often candidly gets neglected. And so it's been really powerful for me, especially as I think about my business. And I'm sure for our audience to think about their business, like, how do you create that delightful experience? And whether it leads to anything or not, I think it's just kind of what you're saying is it's important to have that servant mindset, and ultimately treating your customers the way that you would like to be treated if you were on the other side of the equation. And I like how you talk about, it needs to be proportionate in terms of making it hurt for you, just like whatever you're creating for them. What would be some practical ways for our audience to engage with you and or the business? Yep. What would be a next step they can take?
So I am on LinkedIn, good place to follow me or connect to me personally. To check out the company Cutting Edge Firewood, just go to cuttingedgefirewood.com.
Great. Well, I am tempted to buy some wood, both for my grill and for my fireplace after this conversation. But thanks for stopping by. Really do appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
My pleasure, Brendan. All right. Sounds great. Thank you.